Well, we got another story here queued up. The DOJ is going to sue Texas over Governor Abbott's floating wall and razor wire along the Rio Grande. The Justice Department notified Texas that it plans to file a lawsuit over the latest tactic in Operation Lone Star, Governor Greg Abbott's controversial border security initiative, a legal challenge welcomed by Abbott. TPR confirmed on Friday that the Justice Department sent a letter to Abbott's office outlining that Abbott's floating border barrier in the Rio Grande violates federal law, raises humanitarian concerns, and is a threat to public safety and the environment. Okay, so...
They don't mention the fentanyl coming in from.
Yeah, exactly. They don't mention the tens of thousands of children left unaccounted for at the border. Who I mean, when you want to talk about a humanitarian crisis,
you put out a press release. Only so much room.
There's always so much to talk about.
Can't get everything in, Seamus.
Well, and I'd like to ask you this because you do know the law. Not to put you on the spot. If you don't know the specifics of this, that's fine. But I'm curious if you think there's really a case here.
I don't. One of the limited duties of government is to deal with immigration. Federal government is not doing that. If anybody should be suing anybody, Texas ought to be suing the DOJ.
Amen. Yeah. Amen. That's why we just have to ship more busloads up to these blue states, and then maybe they'll sue the DOJ.
You heard what the mayor of New York just now said.
We've had too many.
No.
That's right.
Yeah, we're no longer a sanctuary city.
And then I said, imagine no borders.
Yeah.
I said, imagine no countries. Why don't you let them in?
No religion too.
This is one of my favorite facts of American politics that has become far more clear over the past few years. But when you place left-wing people in the circumstances that conservatives have been in for decades, they magically have this epiphany and begin to develop conservative perspectives. Part of what was so strategically brilliant about these governors in border states shipping these migrants off to blue states is they forced them to make our arguments. There's too many people. We can't support everyone who wants to enter this country. We don't have the resources to take care of them. Yeah. Okay, if you in New York City don't have the resources to take care of these people, what about a poor border town in Texas? Are you out of your mind? Yeah.
There was a study done by the Civil Rights Commission some years ago, and the group most hurt by illegal aliens are Black and brown people living in the inner city, those with high school or less education, because virtually all of the illegal aliens have very little education. There are about 1 million fewer blacks who are working because of the presence of illegal alien labor. And the presence of illegal alien labor puts downward pressure to the tune of almost $2,000 per year on the salaries of people living in the inner city. Yeah. So once again, the people who are most likely to vote Democrat, the ones on the left, claim that they care about Black and brown people, are the ones most hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy to me that the DOJ is upset because Greg Abbott says, hey, we're going to put up a barrier here because you're not supposed to enter illegally. And by the way, swimming across the Rio Grande is incredibly dangerous. So we should not be incentivizing it as a way for people to enter this country illegally anyways. But that doesn't matter, right? It's a humanitarian crisis that Greg Abbott is standing in the way of floods of illegal immigrations, which apparently Democratic parties benefit from. And I think you're totally right to bring up the fact that they continuously fail to advertise the cost and who is truly impacted by this. I have said over and over again that not only are illegal immigrants themselves, especially people who are trafficked across the border, abused and hurt in the process, but also every community, every person affected by this pays a price that when we say, but it's just mean, you can't put a wall there, you can't put floating buoys in the water.
And Democrats used to agree with you. I put on my my website a montage I did some years ago of Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, Dianne Feinstein, Chuck Schumer, all talking about the damage done by unfettered illegal immigration. Harry Reid even used the word illegal alien. And
it was a border fence back.
And they all used to say this, and then they did a 180 when they realized that the votes were among Hispanics, and they figured that at some point, by letting a bunch of illegal aliens in, there'd be enough pressure to put on to make them residents and then citizens, and then they would vote Democrat. If legal aliens turned residents, turned voters, would vote Republican, we would not be having this conversation.
Well, and not only that, but when they go to places that tend to vote blue, they artificially inflate representation there. The pollsters say there are more people there so that they have to, increase their seats. But I also want to mention this horrible, horrible term you used, illegal alien. Don't you know that the preferred term is friend we haven't made yet?
But what you said is true, because they point that out about Cuban immigrants and people who come over from Cuba who they know have a tendency not to to vote in the same way because they came from a socialist
Right.
country, and so they don't play to that demographic the same way they do those at the Texas border.
Well, wasn't there? I might be misremembering, but there was this wet foot, dry foot policy that actually made it more difficult for people who entered the nation on
floating
rafts,
across from
basically.
Cuba.
People who came from Cuba to enter. That's kind of interesting. That's right. Yeah.
There's a complete bias there. And what I find just totally disturbing is, first off, we have to acknowledge that Greg Abbott responds with, Texas has the sovereignty to enforce border security.
Yeah.
And I have to, you can criticize Greg Abbott for a lot of things, but I really like that he has made this a priority for his administration. I like that he is willing to make bold choices. Again, with the busing, everyone can accuse him of theatrics. I think it's good. I think everyone should be aware of what's going on. One of the strangest things that's happened to me since I began working in conservative media is I think Instagram figured it out, even though my Instagram is very, just personal and not political at all. It started sending me videos that some of the border chiefs take and post on their social media platforms, and the just obvious traffic that goes through that area, the obvious destruction that comes through is something that I wish more people talked about. I didn't seek that out. Instagram has identified me as a conservative. They have figured it out. But it is interesting to me that you won't see that reality portrayed. The obvious case of this is with the group of Haitian migrants who are under the bridge and trying to cross, and Alexander Mayorkas reprimanded the Border Patrol officers who were on horseback, saying they whipped them. They did this.
And they didn't.
And they didn't. They got proof. The photographer testified against it. And Mayorkas is still in office, letting our border policy continue, and also not standing by the agents who are doing their best given the limited resources that they have, considering the federal government consistently undermines states that are trying to be proactive, like Texas.
And the difference between Democrats that I assembled in that montage who were complaining about legal immigration 20 years ago and now, the average illegal immigrant coming from the southern border was a Mexican on foot coming across the border. Now, 100% of them pretty much are paying cartels.
Yeah, well, and not only that,
the whole border has been taken over by the cartels.
The majority of people who are being trafficked across the border are not Mexican. I was having a conversation with Jenny Terra about this, who's a reporter and journalist, an actual one, who's gone down to the border several times. What she told me is that this is her. She said she has not spoken to a single Mexican the entire time she's been down there. Now, I understand that that's anecdotal. That's the experience of one journalist, but statistically, the majority of them are not from Mexico.
No, I was going to point out our own show. I'm going to cite ourselves, citing the Los Angeles Times, when the fourth bus of migrants arrived in LA this week from Texas, the majority were from Venezuela. This is not fair to anyone.
Which is weird because socialism's great.
I thought we loved socialism.
Awful.
No one can explain it. Well, they're here to evangelize about socialism.
Did they listen to the Imagine song over there?
They heard it.
Yeah.
I just think that immigration is one of these issues that I'm so glad that more people are talking about, because again, it's the fact that the DOJ looks at Texas putting up a floating buoy wall, the kind that you would see like if you were swimming at a lake and they're saying don't go too far. They're
super racist.
That they are trying to deter people from illegally entering the country, which by the way, they are risking their lives. They're being put into horrible situations while doing. The humanitarian crisis is Texas trying to stop this, and not the idea that anyone is willing to take children and do this, take this journey is crazy to me.
When Biden got elected, ABC's Martha Raddatz interviewed this guy who had just come across the border. And she said to him, would you have tried this if President Trump had gotten reelected? He said, no.
Of course not. Of course not.
And she was shocked.
Yeah.
She said, really? She said, yes, Biden has given us permiso. She was shocked. The guy goes, no, I wouldn't have tried this. Are you kidding?
Yeah, of course not.
One of the
people respond to incentives. People,
right. Hello?
when the laws are being enforced, people are less likely to break them. Isn't that wild?
One of the statistics that Republicans quote a lot, especially when Andy Biggs entered the motion to impeach Mayorkas a little bit earlier this year. One of the statistics comes up is the number of people who are on the FBI's most wanted list who are apprehended at the border. And they're saying there are more people apprehended at the border on the FBI most wanted list under Biden. And that sounds a little weird, like they're doing a better job of catching them. No, it's because under Trump, they didn't come near the border.
That's right. There's way more.
This is
way
bizarre.
more.
They do things like this.
Those are the ones they caught.
Those are the ones they caught.
They also do things where they'll say like, oh, Barack Obama actually stopped more people from crossing the border than Bush did. That's not true. They just redefined what it meant to stop somebody at the border under the Obama administration.
Sure, and they had Title 42, where there were all sorts of issues related to COVID that we ended up terminating because the Biden administration took it away and then had to put it back. I mean, I think the immigration issue is just profound. It really affects our country. I was wondering if you want to talk a little bit more about your stance as a potential president. Are you looking to restrict any illegal immigration?
I would put back the Trump policies that gave us the most secure border we've ever had. The stay in Mexico policy. I would stop catch and release. I would apprehend and put in confinement the people who are crossing the border illegally, because that's the only way you can deport them. Once you put them in the interior, they're going to stay forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, we need temporary workers if they're truly temporary, and there are some high-skilled workers that we need, but we should determine the number, the amount, and how long they stay.
So can I ask you something just related, not necessarily to illegal immigration, but your own policies? What would be your administration's priority? What's the first thing that you would do if you were elected?
First thing I would do is to stop this war on oil and gas, allow drilling on federal properties, and I would finish the wall. And again, reverse the anti-Trump policies that Biden has implemented. Those are the first couple things I would do.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.